Hello friends, welcome to the lecture number 6 of Microprocessor and Peripheral Interfacing course. In this lecture, we are going to study about the pin diagram of 8086. So, at the end of this lecture, you will be able to draw the pin diagram of 8086 and understand the function of the pins of 8086 IC. So, we have seen that 8086 is a 16-bit microprocessor and it is a single chip CPU. So when you take it in the IC form, the 8086 IC is a 16-bit CPU and it is packaged in a 40-pin IC. Now to make this IC work, it is available at 3 different clock rates, that is 5 MHz, 8 MHz and 10 MHz. This 8086 IC can operate in a single processor mode or a multiprocessor mode, both according to the need. Single processor is generally used for the basic applications in which a single 8086 IC is enough. Whereas in multiprocessor mode, along with the 8086 IC, the other processors or more than one 8086 IC is required and it is for the advanced application. So this 8086 is compatible in both the modes. The single processor mode is called as the minimum mode, whereas the multiple processor mode is called as the maximum mode. Now, if we will see the functions of these 40 pins of the IC, 8086 IC, the signals are divided into 3 categories. The first one is the signals having common functions in both minimum and maximum mode. There are some signals which have special function in the minimum mode and the signals which have special function or a specific function in the maximum mode. So we will see all these signals one by one. So this is the pin diagram. Have a look at this. There are 40 pins starting from the left hand side top 1 up to 40 on the right hand side top. Now what is to be seen with most care in this IC pin diagram is the directions of each signal. Okay, the directions are to be seen very carefully, and if you will observe that from this pin number 1 up to pin number 23, we have the single names written over there. But from pin number 24 to pin number 31, there are 2 names written, one in the bracket and one without bracket. So here, pay attention that all the names written in the bracket are the specific functions of the pin when it is in the minimum mode. So when it is in the minimum mode, only the pins which are written in the bracket will be functional. These others will not be functional. Whereas when it is working in the maximum mode, this pin number 24 to 31 will have this function which is written outside the bracket and this will not be considered. That means out of the 40 pins, the 32 pins have the common function in both minimum and maximum mode, whereas these 8 pins from pin number 24 to 31 are dependent on the mode in which the 8086 is operating. So in this lecture, we will have look on all the common mode signals only. So whatever are the common mode signals, we will see all that. Now here we have ground, VCC, and these are some bidirectional lines from AD0 to AD14 over here and AD15 over here. Then we have NMI, INTR, clock, and here we have reset, ready, test bar, RD bar, MN/MX bar, BHE bar /S7, and this A16 to A19 multiplexed with status signals. So these are the common mode signal and we will have a look on it one by one. So first signal which we will consider is AD0 to AD15. In this, A stands for address and D stands for data. The address and data lines are time multiplexed. That means the same pins will be carrying address as well as data, but on the time sharing basis. when we are going to study the timing diagram, we will see that there are different states in the timing diagram. The T1 state, T2 state, T3, TW and T4 state. So out of all these time durations, on this pins, the address will be available only during the T1 state, that is the first clock state of the timing diagram. And on the remaining clock states, the data will be available. So this is address and data multiplexed lines. Then we have A16 to A19, the 4 address lines multiplexed with the 4 status lines S3, S4, S5, S6. So A stands for address. Again, for some time duration, the address will be available in the T1 state, and on the remaining T states of the timing diagram, the status values will be available on these lines. So what does this status bits or the status values indicates? This indicates what type of segment is being accessed by the processor in the current clock cycle. So if we have a combination of S3 and S4 like 0, 0, that means the processor is accessing the extra segment, that is the alternate data segment. If the status is 0, 1, that means the processor is accessing the stack segment. If the value is 1, 0, the processor is accessing the code segment, or maybe it is not accessing any memory. If it is having 1, 1, that means it is accessing the data segment. So basically this S3 to S6 status bits gives the value of which segment is being accessed by the processor. Now coming to this pin BHE bar / S7, this is again a multiplexed line wherein BHE bar, the value of BHE bar or the value of status bit S7 is given. So BHE stands for bus high enable. The data bus is of 16-bit. It's higher byte, that means D8 to D15. Whether it is enabled for the transfer or not, that is indicated by this BHE bar signal. It is an active low signal. That bar over it indicates it is an active low signal. Now, this BHE bar is used to indicate the transfer of data over the higher order, that is D8 to D15 data bus. Whenever it is low, that means the data is being transferred. If it is high, that means the data is not transferred over the higher order data bus. Okay. Now, the another function of BHE is for the chip select. So if from the address memory bank or the peripherals, a particular chip is to be selected, the combination of BHE bar and the LSB of address, that is A0, is used for chip selection. If we have 0, 0, that means the whole word, lower and higher, the whole word of the data is being transferred. If it is 0, 1, that means 0, as we have seen here, 0 on BHE bar means data is being transferred, and 1 in A0 indicates it is being transferred from or to the odd address. As the LSB of address is 1, it is an odd address. When it is 1, 0 combination, 1 on BHE bar, that means higher byte is not transferred. That means obviously the lower byte is transferred. And here in A0 we have 0. That means odd address is not there, even address is there. So 1, 0 indicates the lower byte is either transferred from or to the even address. When it is 1, 1, it indicates no data transfer is occurring, no operation is occurring. Next pin is RD bar. RD stands for read. Reading means getting the data from the memory or from the IO devices from outside to the processor. And as the bar is shown over here, it is an active low signal. It will be activated whenever it is at logic 0. So if this signal is at logic 0, it indicates your data bus is receiving the data from outside to the processor. Okay. Now next is ready. Obviously the word ready means whether it is ready for performing the task. So this is, if you see the direction of ready signal, it is coming into the processor from the outside devices. This is an acknowledgement from the slower devices, peripherals or memory that they have completed the data transfer operation. Now see, the processing speed of the processor and the peripherals is not same. So whenever there is a transfer of data between these two, it cannot happen in a serial mode or at the same pace. So the processor has to take the acknowledgement from the peripherals or the slower devices for the further operation. So whenever the peripheral is have completed its data transfer operation and it can continue for the next operation, it sends the acknowledgement through the ready signal and it is an active high signal. When one is sent on this pin to the processor, it indicates that the peripheral is now available for performing the next data transfer operation. Next pin is INTR. The INTR stands for interrupt request. Interrupt is any kind of service required by other peripheral from the processor. So it is a kind of request in which the processor has to stop its own execution and provide service to the peripheral. So on this INTR pin, a peripheral or a hardware sends a request. Interrupt request is nothing but it is used to request a hardware interrupt. It is held high when interrupt enable flag is set. One important point, whenever in the control flags of the flag register, if the interrupt enable flag is set, then only the interrupt request can be entertained on this pin. Otherwise, even though the interrupt request is received, and if the interrupt enable flag is not set, then this interrupt request will not be processed by the processor. Okay. Next is the test bar. It is a active low signal, and this is the input which is tested by the wait instruction. Whenever the wait instruction is there, and if the input available on this test bar pin is 0, then the peripheral will be waiting and the execution will continue. But if the test bar is high, then the processor will still wait and remain in an idle state. Okay, so this test bar input is tested by the wait instruction. Next is NMI. NMI stands for non-maskable interrupt. Non-maskable interrupt means the interrupt coming from the peripheral which cannot be masked or which cannot be avoided. That means it is of very much importance or a higher priority. That's why it cannot be ignored. And this is the reason that the non-maskable interrupt does not check whether the interrupt enable flag in the flag register is set or reset. This is the main difference between INTR and NMI. INTR first checks the status of interrupt enable flag, and if it is set, then only it entertains the interrupt request. But NMI is not like that. It is not maskable internally by software. If NMI is activated, the processor has to entertain the interrupt, and the interrupt input uses the interrupt vector number 2. Next is the pin reset. The reset input basically causes the microprocessor to reset itself, and to reset the processor, what we have to do is we have to give the active high or logic 1 to this reset pin for at least 4 clock cycles. Then only the system will be reset. Now what happens on reset? It restarts the execution from the memory location FFFF0H. From this location, the default programs of the 8086 processor are stored, which are required for the initialization. And whenever the processor is reset, all the values which are stored in the temporary registers in the all the registers, flag registers, they are all set to 0. All the things are reset. Okay. Then next is the clock input. The clock input signal basically provides the timing input signal for the processor. Now, all the operations which are happening in the processor, the data transfer or the execution or the fetching, they all should be synchronized, and for that synchronization, a timing signal is required. That timing signal is provided by this clock input. The clock signal which is used for 8086 is an asymmetric square wave, and the duty cycle for it is 33%. Coming to the next basic pins of any IC, that is VCC. It is a 5-volt power supply required for the operation of the internal circuit. Ground is also required for the internal circuit. And the last pin is MN/MX bar. There should be a bar over here. This is used for selecting the mode of operation of 8086. At the beginning, we have seen that it can operate in a single processor mode or a multiple processor mode. The single processor mode is minimum and the multi-processor mode is the maximum mode. So if we want to use it in a minimum mode, we will have to give one input to this pin. Here is a bar, MX bar, that means it is active low. If we want to operate in a maximum mode, we will have to give 0 to this pin. So these were the functions of the pins which are common, which have common function in both minimum and maximum mode. See you in the next lecture. Thank you.